Welcome to another EOS Network Foundation hosted Twitter Spaces. I'm your host, Brandon Lovejoy. My co-host today is the incredible Stephane Bisson. Stephane is a longtime EOS community member and a vocal DeFi enthusiast. He is also the co-founder of EOS Nation, one of the top block producers on EOS, and a big fan of EOS NFTs. Steph is also the host of the Hot Sauce and a man of many hats. And today, we have an opportunity to sit down with Benny Maru, who is a front-end developer in the Web3 space and one of the co-founders of Nava Labs, the company incubating Neutro Swap, along with other products and projects. So just a brief overview, Neutro Swap is an automated market maker built on the EOS EVM. It offers low fees for asset swapping and provides attractive rewards for staking and yield farming. NeutroSwap emphasizes community involvement and allows users to participate in decision-making through governance voting and much more. And for those who may not know, the EOS EVM is an emulation of the Ethereum EVM housed within an EOS smart contract. It offers feature parity to other EVMs in the space, but with unmatched speed, performance, and compatibility, connecting the EOS ecosystem to the Ethereum ecosystem by allowing developers to deploy a wide array of Solidity-based digital assets and innovative dApps on EOS. We received 37 responses to our shout out for questions about NeutroSwap, and thanks to everyone who submitted your questions. That's the wisdom of the crowd in action, and that's what an AMA is all about. And some prizes don't hurt either. Also, we have Yana rocking the soundboard in the background, keeping everything moving. So thanks to Yana. Stephanie intel for me.
Yeah, excited to talk to Benny Maru, co-founder of Neutro Swap. While I was preparing for the show today, got on Neutro Swap, tried out all of the features. Always nice when things just work. Maybe unlike this Twitter Spaces right now, trying to get Benny on stage. But when I was trying out Neutro Swap, everything just worked out. I had to refamiliarize myself with the EVM structure. It's been a while since I'd done transactions on my MetaMask, and you gotta approve the transaction first and then send it in. So that tripped me up at first a bit. I was like, what happened? Didn't I do the transaction? Why is my swap not going through? But again, that was not the fault of the platform. That was the fault of the user, which happens with me sometimes. But once I remembered how this game works on the EVM, everything was very smooth. Fees of 0.002 EOS or something to do the swaps. So that's obviously very incredible. I rage quit Ethereum DeFi a couple of years ago when I wanted to readjust some positions, and it literally cost me hundreds of dollars. And I was like, this is just terrible. And then, of course, while I'm doing that, I'm comparing to DeFi Box, which is a DeFi protocol on EOS native, which I've used a lot and I'm a big fan of. And the transactions are instant and the fees are negligible. So I got spoiled on EOS DeFi over the years. And now, right now, DeFi Box was the only DeFi protocol I'm using out of all of crypto. I have no money on exchanges, no money on centralized lending platforms, and no money in any DeFi outside of EOS native until the EOS EVM launch. And of course, I tried out some of the protocols when it launched. Neutro Swap, I clicked through everything, getting ready for the show. And yeah, it was a very pleasant experience. And hopefully we can get some more insights from Benny Maru today.
Yeah, I think we're getting it worked out. We got Benny Maru on the mic. I see that microphone is activated. I think it was just all an effort to build anticipation. Benny Maru, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. Thank you for having me. Sorry for the slight hiccups.
All right. Before we get into this giant slew of questions that we have for you, and I know Steph has a few that he's particularly pumped up to ask, could you just give us a basic introduction in your words? What is NeutroSwap? And then what brought you to deploy on the EOS EVM?
Okay. For this, I think we have to go back to the start, like the first from the ideation and then to the deployment of NeutroSwap.
Sure.
For the introduction, basically, NeutroSwap is a community-driven AMM where that is like our idea of separating ourselves from the others AMM in the industry. For the birth of Neutro Swap, our dream was just like everyone else in this space, where we were looking for opportunities, because that's what we do in this space, right? And then things had been slow, as you guys know, in the couple of months. And then we wanted to build something, anything basically. And that's when we stumbled upon the EOS EVM testnet announcement. One of the Neutro Swap's co-founder, and he is present here, Jonas Nanda, is an Norwegian, and he's quite familiar with what EOS has achieved in the past. So we conducted a deep dive into the ecosystem of EOS itself, and then the community of EOS, the tech behind EOS, and the EOS EVM itself, anything we can find on the internet. And we concluded that EOS EVM has the potential we're looking for, considering it's still in its infancy, like it's still a new chain. So we went all in and then brainstorm on what does a new chain needs. Obviously a DEX at the time, and then there was only one active DEX team in the community that we noticed, which is Froggy Finance. We told ourselves this is a new land, so why not build it here? So that's what we do, and the rest is, well, history now.
Correct. The rest is history. The history in the making, maybe.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that introduction. Steph, I'd like to pass the mic over to you and take us deep into the DeFi waters with some of these brilliant questions we have curated from the community.
All right, sure, will do. Thanks, Brendan. And yeah, thanks, Brendan, for inviting me on today. Honored to be co-hosting a show with you. And Benny Maru, yeah, excited to talk to you and learn more about Neutro Swap. Definitely got my attention with this intro you just gave. Obviously, we love hearing that people are hearing about the new things going on EOS and are attracted by the opportunities that now exist. And it's not everyone in the crypto space that realizes that's the reality of EOS right now. A lot of development, a lot of opportunity. And so, yeah, so I'm really happy to hear that you stumbled onto a tweet about a testnet and then did your research and ended up wanting to go all in and deploying on EOS EVM. That's really awesome.
Yeah, happy to build here.
All right. Yeah, so a couple questions that were sent in, and then we can open it up to the crowd. If anyone wants to come on stage and ask some questions as well, you'll have the opportunity to do that. And then I've got some additional questions, perhaps a bit spicier, that maybe we'll get into depending on the time. So first question here we have, security is paramount in the world of decentralized exchange. What measures has NeutroSwap implemented to ensure the safety of user funds, protect against potential hacks or vulnerabilities, and provide users with a secure trading environment?
Yeah, this is basically like all the main concern for all protocols, like the security of the protocols. And we've tried our best to ensure the safety of user funds and then potential hacks, vulnerabilities. We base our Neutro Swap on some of the most established protocol in the industry. And our contract is audited by Solid Proof. And if I can send you the report so people here can check it out.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely share that information with us. We'll get that shared with the community. But maybe this seems obvious to you, but just want to check. NeutroSwap is a fork of Uniswap. I know a lot of protocols, that's the strategy they do. Maybe it's so obvious that it's not even mentioned, but maybe not everyone here in this audience is very familiar with that ecosystem. Maybe you can talk a bit about that.
Yeah, that is true. From Uniswap v2, which is a very commonly forked protocol out there, like maybe one of the most popular ones, because how great it functions as a protocol. So I don't think security will be a much of a concern. But after we do all the forking, we actually ask Solid Proof to audit our contract again. Just make sure, double check, make sure everything is good.
Did you guys add additional features to that, or is just a pure fork?
For the swap features, yeah, it's basically the same, but like we added farm features and then the fault features that we took that from the different part, like we took inspiration from other protocols and then developed it ourselves, just to make it compatible with the current code base of Uniswap V2.
Okay, all right, great. Thanks for answering. And I just want to pause here for a moment and appreciate how far the entire DeFi space has come in just a few years. Like we're talking about how forking this DeFi protocol is super standard, everyone's building on top of it, and it just allows all these DeFi protocols to proliferate across the crypto space with very little friction, which I think is really awesome. Disintermediating the banks through on-chain protocols is one of the reasons I got super excited about crypto over 5 years ago when I joined in January 2017. And this story I was telling people, but in early 2017, like, this is what's going to happen in the future. There's going to be these protocols that are going to act like banks. We won't need to have banks that screw us over. Everything's going to be transparent. You can look at everything on chain. And I just think it's very cool that we're at this spot in the DeFi history where, you know, teams like yours can easily deploy new DeFi protocols on chains like ours that are incentivizing builders to do that. So I just think that's awesome and wanted to take a moment to appreciate that. Okay, question number 2. Neutro Swap's liquidity pools are a crucial component of the platform. How does Neutro Swap attract liquidity providers to its pools and incentivize them to participate? And what benefits do liquidity providers receive in return for their contribution?
Yes, that is actually our first goal, which is to attract liquidity providers, since EOS EVM is still in infancy, like a new chain, so there's not much liquidity there. So what we do is, when liquidity providers stake their LP token after they provided the liquidity, they can stake their LP token to our smart contract to farm Neutro token. So not only they'll receive their yield from trading fees, they can also farm and then also receive the Neutro token, that the incentivization that we give to them.
All right, good stuff. And then I guess the next question can be, once we receive these Neutro tokens for providing liquidity to this platform, what's the utility of the Neutro token? And is there a burn mechanism for it as well?
For now, which is the current iteration of Neutro Swap, Neutro token is only used for those liquidity providers. But in the future, we are actually currently working on Neutro Swap V2, which we will introduce a new wide range of utility for Neutro token, and then introduce a perpetual burning mechanism for Neutro.
All right. Question number 4. Neutro Swap has integrated with the EOS EVM blockchain, of course. So can you explain the benefits and advantages choosing EOS as the underlying blockchain infrastructure for Neutro Swap? You've touched upon this a bit during the introduction, but I'm wondering maybe if you can go a bit deeper, perhaps in the technical details, or some more examples on that topic.
Yeah, on the non-technical side, like the support given by EOS Network Foundation has been great. And for the technical side, as you guys know, EOS EVM offers like high-speed transaction and very low cost. It's a very perfect environment for Neutro to be built upon. And with all of those criteria, we are confident that Neutro Swap can fully utilize and bring out the best of EOS EVM.
Awesome. Actually, I'm curious, kind of related to that, how much research did you need to do to be able to deploy on the EOS EVM, or is it very standard and it's just like any other EVM, wasn't too much research? And in parallel to that, were you able to find support from current devs in the ecosystem if you did have questions?
For the deployment, it's basically the same as other EVM. Like, we don't really have any struggles in deploying on the ecosystem part. Like, that is actually one of our biggest challenges that we had to overcome, because since EOS EVM is a new chain, we can't really find any partnership between us and other projects, because like most projects is still unreleased or like still new, so they're still focused on working on their own project. So I feel like this fact is some sort of a double-edged sword for Neutro Swap. Like it's new, it's a land of opportunity, but like nobody already established there. So we don't really have a project to partner with. But because of that, the form of partnership that we can establish is like getting listed on analytics side, and then exchanges such as like CoinGecko, CMC, DeFi Llama, and Crypto.com. And for the questions part, like we actually joined all of our dev joined the EOS developer Telegram group, and they've been really helpful. The community is great. Everyone's is really welcoming. So I didn't actually experience anything that hinders us from completing the project on the initial part. Yeah, the conversation has been great. I'm really thankful for that.
All right. Thanks for that insightful answer. I find it very interesting when you mentioned there's a lack of other projects to partner with because it's so new. I still think it's a good idea to get in there as one of the first protocols to really launch and be active in the community and have a product that people can get their hands on and test. Because I know a lot of EOS community members are excited to try out the EOS EVM, right? And inevitably, they're going to go to, like you say, those aggregators, DeFi Llama, CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko. They all have these aggregators that show the active dApps per EVM. And then you guys are listed up there at the top or near one or two whenever I've been checking. So I do think that as other projects launch, you guys are going to be one of the leaders in this space, which I think is going to pay dividends. So maybe stay patient a bit, keep doing these shows, keep talking about your project to the EOS community, and I'm sure you guys will have many opportunities to partner with other projects. On my side, like Brandon mentioned, I host the EOS Hot Sauce on YouTube every Fridays. That's a 15-minute show where I cover the news of the week of EOS, and I've been showing the EOS EVM stats, and I've been looking at the protocols, and I've mentioned Neutro Swap many times on that show. And also on the Fireside, the EOS community Fireside chat that happens every Wednesday on Discord, which is then streamed to YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc. We've been mentioning Neutro Swap there as well. Maybe there's not big partnerships available for you guys with other big projects right now, but since there are not that many projects available, when I'm looking at what's going on in the ecosystem, you guys end up being mentioned quite often. So I would imagine that would be good for you guys in the long run. And I would invite you to join us on the Fireside and come talk about your project and share some updates there. We have all sorts of guests from the EOS community that joins us there. And yeah, it would be great to have you guys as well. That's at 1900 UTC, so sometimes not very friendly to time zones for people in Asia, but we can work something out. Okay, next question, question number 5, which I alluded to earlier. Could you provide some insights into Neutro Swap's future roadmap and what the team envisions for the platform in terms of scalability, user adoption, and ecosystem expansion?
Yeah. For the scalability part, we are not worried about that. We believe EOS Network Foundation knows what she's doing. Adoption, we're currently planning a way to attract more users from outside EOS ecosystem, because we noticed that the current users, most are like people that migrate from the native chain to EOS EVM. So that's like only a small market share of the whole DeFi ecosystem, right? And I think we have to be more aggressive on attracting people outside that bubble. And we are hoping with the help of EOS Network Fund ENF, we can make that happen. For the expansion, our current short-term plan is the Neutro Swap V2. Maybe I can go through a little bit about the V2. I've teased it. I mentioned a little bit about it before, but I didn't actually go into it.
Yeah, please, let's dive deeper into that.
Yeah, so we are bringing a few new things to Neutro Swap with V2. The first one is an NFT-based farming mechanism to EOS EVM and to Neutro Swap. So it's a new mechanism, a different iteration of our regular farming. It's basically where you deposit your LP tokens, you won't receive anything back. But with this NFT-based farming mechanism, you will receive an NFTs that acts as like a receipt to your deposit. So it will increase composability of our current farming mechanism. And with the current V1, as I mentioned before, we are only focusing on attracting liquidity to Neutro Swap, which is like the main component of a DEX. That's what we need to do. But with V2, we are expanding our reach to tokenomics. We aim to provide more value to Neutro token, hopefully making our Neutro token holders happier. And then that's why I am proud to announce there will be a locked version of Neutro. It will bring a lot of range of its utilities, as I mentioned before, because the current use case for Neutro is only to incentivize liquidity providers. But not only that, we'll also implement a perpetual burning mechanism that will effectively making a Neutro a deflationary token.
Very cool. Very exciting. Any timelines on that? Is that something we can expect in 2023 or more likely 2024?
Hopefully 2023. We are actually working on it as we're speaking. Like I'm speaking here, but like my other colleagues is working hard on that part. But yeah, our main target is still in the scope of 2023. Finger crossed.
All right. Thank you for those great answers, Benimaru. I learned some things. I hope everyone listening in learned some things as well. Brandon, did you have some questions you wanted to throw his way before we open it up to the crowd?
Yeah, thanks. That was very interesting about the V2. I'd like to, I don't know, you got my gears turning in that one. I'm curious more about these NFTs and what role those NFTs play in the Neutro ecosystem, first off. If you could expand on that at all.
Yeah, for the NFTs, we are thinking like we can establish ourselves as some kind of the anchor project of EOS EVM. That's what we are aiming for. So other protocols can use the NFTs for, let's say, to unlock the liquidity. Like they can use that NFTs as collateral for lending. This I'm just blurting out here. That's like the main idea we are hoping for. But yeah, that's actually one of the use cases of those NFTs, like increasing composability. Like you can do something while you're farming your LP token. And then in addition to that, like you can actually, I forget to mention a few parts. Like for these NFTs, you can actually boost your yield through this is actually like one of the utilities for the lock version of Neutro that I mentioned before. So you can, if you lock your Neutro and then you deposit that lock Neutro to one of the plugins. So basically we are bringing as what we call plugins to the utility of the lock version of Neutro. I'm just gonna say it. We're gonna call the locked version of Neutro X Neutro. If you hold X Neutro, you have the options to deposit that X Neutro to 3 different plugins. So the first one is the yield booster, which you can use to boost the yield you're currently receiving from your NFTs. And the second one is Launchpad plugins, where you can allocate your X Neutral, so you will have like special treatment once our Launchpad is launched. And then the third part is you can receive a cut from our protocol revenue, which we call dividends. So that is the 3 utilities you can get from X Neutro, which is the locked version of Neutro. For the utility that is connected to the NFTs, other than we want other project to use our NFT to be connected to them, but like the other thing is like users can boost their yield.
Wow, very cool. That sounds like you just dropped a bunch of alpha here on Twitter Spaces. So that's great. Thanks for sharing. When you say locked, could you expand on that a little bit? Are we talking about staked for a period of time, permanently affixed to a user's account? What is that lock functionally?
For the Neutro token,
Yeah.
you can lock it indefinitely, but like you when you're redeeming the X Neutro, there will be like a fasting period for it if you want to redeem from X Neutro back to Neutro. But if you're converting from locking your Neutro to X Neutro, it will be 1-for-1, and then it'll be locked indefinitely. Like you can unlock it whenever you want, but when you're unlocking it, they're gonna be fasting applied to your X Neutro.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
How long is that vesting period going to be potentially? I imagine all the details aren't worked out yet, so I'm not expecting a definite answer, but maybe what you're thinking about.
Actually, the proof of concept is already up in our docs, and people actually can check it out now. But yeah, the fasting period, you can choose between 15 days and 6 months, but that is still tentative. It might change in the future, but like currently our plan is 15 days to 6 months. And then the ratio of neutral unlocked that you'll get will be differs from 50 days and 6 months. If you fast in 6 months, you will get the whole amount that you unlock. But if you choose 15 days, you'll only get half of neutral. Yeah, the redeemed neutral, and then everything in between.
All right. And at the start of the show here, I mentioned that I went on Neutro Swap, tested out all the features. One of these features is a vault. So right now, I've got Neutro locked in the 90-day vault. What's the difference between locking my Neutro in the vault and this X Neutro that's coming with V2?
Yeah, it depends on your yield strategy, like yield farming strategy. Like if you're using Vault, you only get neutral by locking your neutral. But like with the new utility for X neutral, you can choose to allocate your X neutral to 3 different parts depending on what you want. Do you want a cut of the product revenue, like you receive dividends, or you want participate in our Launchpad and then get special treatment because you allocated your X neutral to the plugins, or maybe you are primarily LPs and you want to boost your yield. So we are bringing like more options for the users on what they want to do with their neutral. Yeah, depending on your own strategy. Which one do you think that is more profitable to you?
For me, it would be the liquidity providing boost, probably. But yeah, okay, that's very cool. I like it. So you guys are really adding more utility to the neutral token in V2. And that actually answers one of my other questions that I had was on your website right now, there's kind of 6 sections, right? There's the swap where you can swap tokens for one another. There's the pool where you can deposit your tokens and become a liquidity provider, which is what I typically do. There's the farm where you can deposit your liquidity providing tokens into that farm in order to earn additional rewards, I imagine, or neutral tokens probably. And then there's the vault, but then there's Launchpad and analytics, which all it says is coming soon. So I was wondering, Launchpad, what that would entail, self-evident, but maybe you can talk a bit about that. And also what I'm probably even more curious about is analytics, which I always love to see blockchain data analytics. So I'm wondering what we can expect from that as well.
Yeah, for the Launchpad, to in tandem with our plan to become like the anchor project of EOS EVM, we want to facilitate new builders so they can raise money for this raise funds for like their project to kickstart development for their own projects on Neutro Swap. So that's our aim for the Launchpad. Since there are not many new projects for now, and then we haven't launched our Launchpad yet, so that is still work needs to be done.
Yeah,
and
makes sense.
Yeah,
and for the analytics,
yeah, for the analytics, we are actually a little bit struggling on the graph part because like it's currently not supported. They don't support EOS EVM. So we actually already take a look at some other alternative like substreams and yes, it is possible to be used just like the graph if they decided to support EOS EVM. And then the data that we'll show is basically the total number of transactions that is currently has been done in Neutro Swap, and then the LPs, all the data inside each pools, and all that for the analytics. Yeah, that is basically what you can expect with the analytics part. So that's why currently we are still focusing our work on the V2. So yeah, that's
All right. Okay, you'll be happy to learn. Now, I don't know if you may have talked with Denis already from our team, but our team is actually working on deploying Firehose and Substreams technology to the EOS network, both to the EOS native side and to the EOS EVM side. I'm not sure if the EOS EVM substreams are already available, but feel free to reach out to us. We're actually looking for projects that want to help us test out these new features. Maybe you can focus on your V2 for now. And once that's launched, hopefully by then, you'll have Firehose and Substreams technology available on EOS EVM, which will allow you to get that data you want and to build these cool analytics that I want to see. So there's definitely something coming in that for that section of your project.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be really helpful for our analytics page.
Love to hear it. All right. So at this point, I guess we can invite people from the crowd. If you guys have questions, send in a request to join us on stage, and we can get you on stage to ask your questions. I've got a couple more questions that I'd like to ask, but Brandon, did you have any more you wanted to get to before?
Yeah, before we dive back down the DeFi rabbit hole, maybe I'm curious. So you mentioned that something which differentiates Neutro is that it emphasizes community involvement. And I read that Neutro Swap allows users to participate in decision making through governance voting. Sounds like you have a bit of a DAO kind of model going on there. I'm curious what your thoughts are there and what the vision is for that.
Yeah, for the Neutro Swap governance, we haven't actually have anything set in stone because like we want to focus on the product first, just to make sure people are having great experience with our dApps. And then after that, when we already mature a bit, and then we can focus on the governance, get the community involved in the whole decision making of our protocol. But yeah, that is still something that we set aside for the future.
All right, cool. Yeah, I was just curious because it was on the docs as I was reading through there, and it's something that EOS with Haifa and everything we've been exploring a little bit. Cool. So yeah, if anyone wants to, they can raise their hands and be added as a speaker, as Steph just mentioned, and feel free to ask your questions. But until that time, Steph, I know you have some more questions you're burning to ask.
For sure. I got a couple ones, a couple juicy ones actually. So feel free to answer these or not. Totally understand. I guess one question that I'm always very curious about when I hear about these new DeFi protocols that are trying to attract me to deposit funds and trust them, even though the code is public, audited, etc., there's still some amount of trust required to deposit my funds into a DeFi protocol. And so I'm wondering if you can talk to if your team is anonymous or not. Maybe if you want to share what country or jurisdiction you guys are in. I know a lot of DeFi founders have to remain anonymous or pseudo-anonymous because the DeFi regulations in their country is probably hostile or unclear at best with a lot of uncertainty. So I definitely understand that. And also, I'm curious to know how big your team are. You mentioned you've got a colleague working on V2 as this Twitter space is going on. And so, yeah, just would like to know more about the people behind this project.
Yeah, I won't say the specific country, but all I can say is we're in Asia. So it's nighttime here. That's when we DeFi people are working. And we are dogs, as you can see from, basically we are dogs. And people cannot find info. And we are dogs to the ENF. Um, I had a great call with Brandon the other day. We turned on our cam, we can see other people's faces. And yeah, that is actually not a problem for us. We are very open. We don't hide ourselves. We can be behind anonymity. Yeah.
That's very refreshing to hear. Good stuff. And how big is the team? Is it, I think you guys are 2 co-founders. Is that the team right now?
We are actually a team of 5 with 4 of us as the co-founders. The main the whole project manager is like Cofounder. He's here. He's present. He's one of the listener. And the other 2 is, one of them is the smart contract developers, and he also handles the back end. And the other is also a front end engineer like me. And the other one is also front end engineer. So we got 3 front end engineer, and then 2 smart contract / back end engineer.
Very nice, very nice. All right, thank you for that answer. Doesn't look like we've got any questions coming in from the crowd, so I'll keep going. Here's a fun one. What are some of your favorite DeFi protocols, of course, outside of your own? And did you take inspiration from them?
Yeah, there are actually some of them. Uniswap, of course, because that is like the first mover of AMM. Like, you have to look up to them, no matter what, if you're also a DEX protocol yourself. And the other protocols are like Camelot Exchange, and then Trader Joe, and SingSwap. For the Camelot, we are actually inspired by them for our tokenomics, and we see like how genius it is. Like, they built all of this burning mechanism that centered around their utility token, native token. And then for SingSwap, we took inspiration from them actually on the UI part, because it's so clean. And the Trader Joe, we actually took inspiration for our farming part, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, those 4 are actually the project that we took inspiration from, and then my personal favorite protocols in the DEX category.
Right on. I will confirm that the UI is very clean. Definitely agree with that. And I was actually talking with Marco, another longtime EOS community member, this morning, and that was actually the one comment he had for Neutro Swap as well, was that the UI was really clean and sharp.
And the documentation is great. You guys put a lot of work into that as well, so really makes it really easy to educate yourself about the protocol. And so good job, whoever's working hard there.
Right on, Brendan. I didn't realize you read DeFi protocol documentation. Even I don't go that deep.
It's actually not super disturbingly technical and make your eyes bleed. It's very friendly to the eyes and very easy to read for a non-technical person. It explains everything quite well. I think it might be built on Notion. I'm not really sure what you guys have backing all that up, but yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, that's actually our aim. Like, we don't want to complicate users with the technical part. I mean, I want them to know, but most people don't want to know. So yeah, we try to make it as non-technical as possible, and I'm happy to hear that it works.
Yeah, for anyone listening, it's just docs.neutroswap.io. It's really well laid out. You can learn a lot in here, see what's going on, links to all the socials and whatnot as well. Yeah, and I just want to jump in also with a last call for anyone that wants to grab the mic while we have Benny Maru on this occasion, and go ahead and request speaking privileges, and they shall be granted to you. So just, come on in with your burning questions if you have them. Steph, do you have any other additional thoughts? Or Betty, do you also have anything you just want to share that we didn't touch on yet today?
I think we pretty much covered all the alpha that I can spill. If not, I might be in trouble by then.
Yeah, I think this was a great overview for sure. We covered a lot of different parts. I'm personally actually pleasantly surprised by all your answers, and you're very articulate, you communicate well. So this has been very enjoyable for me. I'm probably going to go and deposit some more assets in those liquidity pools, probably buy some Neutro tokens, and support you guys and your project. My final question, a bit juicier, not sure exactly what you'll be able to share on this, but for those of you who are following DeFi breaking news, the leading DeFi protocol Curve on Ethereum, which is a stable coin swap, maybe other things as well, but that's the main purpose. You can swap between USDT, DAI, USDC. The founder recently put up all of his CRV collateral, which is almost 200 million worth or something like that, in exchange for $100 million loan on Aave protocol, I believe. So this has caused quite a stir in the DeFi community, because basically this can be considered the equivalent of the Curve founder dumping all of his tokens. And this guy has a lot of Curve tokens. Apparently, it's about 50% of the entire supply that is now put up as collateral in another DeFi protocol. And he took out $100 million loan from that. So this kind of allows the founder to dump all his tokens without necessarily tanking the price of CRV, and without incurring a tax event or delaying the tax event, because loans are not taxable in many jurisdictions. The problem here is that if the CRV token goes down and then he gets his position liquidated, the founder loses all of his CRV token, but keeps his $100 million loan. And then these CRV tokens would, of course, go down in value significantly if 50% of the supply needs to be liquidated through a protocol. And so this has got some people, it's been causing quite a stir. And this is very new. Like I said, I think this happened in the last 24 hours. I have not verified this stuff. I've just been kind of following along on Twitter, various people talking about this. So kind of two questions for you. Do you have any comments on this situation? Did you even hear about it? Because like I said, it's very recent. And the other question leads me to wonder, what's the token allocation and distribution of Neutro? How much are the founders keeping? What kind of vesting schedule exists? And are there mechanisms in place to prevent such a scenario from happening?
Yeah, I actually follow it along too on Twitter. Like I've seen some people talking about it, but like I'm not really familiar. I like, just like you, I haven't checked it on chain. I haven't followed it really deeply, so I don't really have comment on that, because I might trigger something which I don't want. But I'm actually curious on your part. What's your opinion on that before I answer the token structure of Neutro Swap?
Can I jump in with my face value assessment of what you just said, Steph?
Yes, please.
It sounds like somebody is taking the playbook of the too big to fail big banks and socializing their potential future losses across essentially taxpayers.
Wow. Interesting perspective. I had not thought of that, but it makes sense. Yeah, it does make sense, because they're holding hostage these other protocols. And then if Aave incurs a loss on that CRV, then the Aave token loses value. Another DeFi protocol, which uses Aave as collateral, could see some ripple effects. And so, it is like one of the too big to fail protocols is attempting to socialize the losses on the entire DeFi community. I don't know. I don't know. I definitely would have to think more about this stuff, but very interesting point that you bring up. My initial reaction to this is that this is going to serve as a lesson for future DeFi protocols, right? And maybe Neutro Swap is going to put in some mechanisms in place to assure the community that this situation cannot happen again. And it's the price to pay to be part of this amazing blockchain adventure that is DeFi. And there's going to be blowups. There's going to be bridges that get hacked. There's like all these things are inevitably going to happen. But with each iteration, these protocols become stronger. Oh, there's a potential exploit here where founders can deposit 50% of the entire token supply onto a protocol. Oh, okay, let's make sure that can't happen. As people iterate on these DeFi protocols, they're just going to get stronger and stronger, more resilient, less exploits available. And eventually we get to a place where most of the features that banks currently have a monopoly on in the world could be, a lot of these features could be replaced by DeFi, or at the very least, bring in some nice, healthy competition to the traditional finance system via a network of DeFi protocols across a network of blockchains.
Yeah, that's actually very concerning, and we will use that as a learning for our own protocol. But yeah, let's move on to the neutral, our effort to prevent that from happening. So the distribution for neutral token is, as I've said before, we are community driven. So we actually allocated 85% of the total supply of neutral to the community, which will be used for incentive. And then we as a team will only receive 5% of the total supply, which will be vested linearly for 18 months. And the other half of that will be used for marketing, which will also be vested linearly for 12 months. And then the last 5 was used for initial liquidity for neutral.